You know, that I just don't think people understand what the health insurance crisis is. There are many parts to it, but we just heard from two people who couldn't be working harder, trying to make ends meet, obviously not lazy, looking for a handout, who were dealt, challenges because of health problems in the family. And they're trying to cope and trying to work in a system that is unforgiving in a lot of aspects of it. Let me open at this point. I want to have others with input, some of you who own businesses and have to deal with providing health insurance, whether you can afford to provide it and such. Larry, why don't you say a word, if you will?
I'm president of a small industrial construction company, and my story, unlike these people here, is more of a story that's very typical of small businesses. We have a group policy that insures 6 people, and this policy last year cost approximately $34,000. That's with a $5,000 deductible. And I was notified last Thursday afternoon that the bump for this coming year will be 26%. So, which, not unusual. This means we start the process, we start the drill. We now go out shopping for the next plan.
Larry, how much, I hate to interrupt you, but tell me the contribution that your employees make to their own health insurance. Do they make?
They actually don't. I furnish the insurance. That's part of the, it's how we feel. We provide the insurance for our employees. It's an incentive for them to work for us, which is somewhat unusual, but that's just our policy. We have an HSA feature, I might add, we've had for 3 years, which I believe is a step in the right direction. Certainly not the solution, but I think it's a practical situation right now.
So the $34,000 is the annual premium for
Yes.
the 6 employees and their families?
It's actually 3 employees, 3 families, 2 people, 6 bodies that we're insuring. And what I'm trying to point up here is the annual drill that many small businesses have to do. You typically come in at the lowest rate, and then as you turn out of that first year, the rates jump up, so you go back into shopping for the next plan. And it's just a continual process which just points up, obviously, how counterproductive it is, and it certainly is not part of the solution.
Have you had a bad experience among the employees or families, a bad health experience?
Not per se. We're all getting some gray hair, though, so that might weigh into it. But I really don't think that our specific situation within our company is as much as the issue as the overall situation that small businesses are confronted with.
I had a friend in a similar circumstance with a trucking company, and one of the wives had a very sick baby. And the next year, it wasn't 26%. It was as high as they could legally go, and then it kept building beyond that.
Right.
They didn't want to insure that family anymore. And they finally gave up on it and put everybody out in the open market and said, here's what we were paying for you. We'll give you that amount of money, but now you're in the open market, and that's when you're really vulnerable.
Exactly, yeah. And we have not had that experience. I agree that we really have to look at how to dilute this risk, how to make the risk pool larger, and I think that that'll go a long way in helping things.
John, what's your experience?
Well, I mean, my experience, I have a small CPA firm in Frankfurt, and I started the firm up last November. Prior to that, I was at another firm where we had 15 people, and we provided health insurance. I was a partner there, and we had about under 15, about 10 or 11 people, and every single year the rates would go up. We'd be in a partner meeting talking about the rates going up, going up. We did go out and shop, change carriers one year, but it created great problems because then everyone had to change doctors. So we went to a low-class plan, then we went back. So now my experience now is then when I first left, I then was on COBRA plan with my old place, and that just ended this past month. And so I did various options. One was I looked for just get an individual plan, and I was denied the individual plan due to my wife's health issues. And I have 4 employees, and so I just started on August 1st started, and I got a group plan now with Blue Cross, and probably I'm going to run into the issues that Larry run into is actually my premiums are lower by $200 what I was paying at my old place. So, but it is, still fairly pricey. And right now, in the immediate case, my other employees are covered in their spouse's plan, so I'm kind of a little lucky in that regard, but obviously I won't always be able to do that. So it is, it's a pretty big cost, and it's hard, I think, for a small business with just, a few employees to keep up with the plan, and we'll see what happens in the future.
Our firm has been in existence for about 30 years, and we've provided group insurance from the day the firm started. Today, our insurance cost for 23 people is probably the largest expense item on our income statement, so it's a considerable expense. We are with a first-rate insurance company. We've been there for 10 years, and we've never experienced the rate increases of 20 or 30%. They go with the market. So overall, I can't say I'm dissatisfied with our health insurance company. But one of the things that, in looking at your proposal, and I commend you for it, I see in Illinois a problem that if you go to Indiana, Indiana's health costs are substantially less than Illinois. And the reason they are less is because there is a limit on malpractice insurance. Illinois, we will not pass that.
No, it did pass.
But it's gone up on appeal.
It's being considered now by the Supreme Court, I believe.
Right.
It is the law now.
Right. But Indiana's had that for about 20 years, and as a result, their costs are less. And in Indiana, there is no certificate of need, which you have to have in Illinois to build a hospital. And in Tinley Park, there's a desire to build a hospital there, and the state won't allow it to be built. So as a result, you limit competition instead of increasing competition. And I think acting on some of those items would help to reduce the overall insurance cost, which is important. In regard to your bill, I think it has a lot of very positive aspects.
I might also say that some of you may have heard of the association health plans. That was kind of, for a long time, that was a big plank in the business platform. But we couldn't get it off the ground for a number of reasons. And one of them was the question of who will regulate the companies that sell the insurance. Well, we stick with state regulation. And you do it for a couple reasons. One, to make sure you have a solid company that's actually selling a plan. And then to supervise them when there are complaints about how they're treating people. That there's a regulatory agency involved. So unlike association health plans, the states are still the regulators. And then the big battle is this, and this is one that is tricky, but I've got to be honest with you about it. It really gets to the heart of it. What do the plans have to cover? Every state is different. Every state has state statutory requirements of what a health insurance plan has to cover. And I'll give you just one example that goes back 30 years ago when I was a lawyer working in Springfield in the legislature. People came in and complained. They said, my wife and I bought this health insurance plan. It was supposed to cover the delivery of children and our children in the family. And we had a baby who was born with a problem, and we looked at the fine print in the health insurance plan, and it says newborns covered after the 31st day. So a newborn baby was not covered for the first 30 days of life. Now, from an insurance company's point of view, it was a smart economic decision. Sick babies are very expensive in the first days of their lives, but it was a terrible policy that you would have a mother covered and a baby covered a month later. So we put in the law, if you offer maternal coverage and coverage of the baby, it starts from the moment of birth. And that is part of the law in Illinois. Now, every other state may have that, may not have that, may have something about mammograms and whether they have to be covered. I mean, there's a long list. So when you look at each state, there's a long list of things that have to be in every basic health insurance plan. Now, what do you do when you get to a national plan? What are you going to cover? And this was one of the sticking points, and frankly, we fell down on this in an earlier debate on the bill. What we do for the national pool that I talked to you about after 2 or 3 years, where we're going to, if each state doesn't create the pool, we go to a national pool. The idea is to have the Institute of Medicine come up with a plan of what they consider to be the basics, what you need to cover in this. It'll be controversial because it won't cover everything. Connecticut covers Lyme disease. You can't write a health insurance policy in Connecticut if it doesn't cover Lyme disease. Other states don't have that requirement, but I use it as an example that there's a lot of variations here. So when it gets to the national pool, we found this was the best compromise we could come up with and have the Institute of Medicine come forward with.